You can be smart, hardworking, and motivated and still feel like you can't lose weight. You might believe that no matter how hard you try, you just can't stick to things because you don't have enough willpower. As a weight loss doctor, I've helped hundreds of people bridge the gap between knowing what to do and actually being able to do it long term. And I can tell you, this is the most common thing I hear when I first meet someone. And look, I get it because I used to feel the exact same way, stuck. For most of my life, well into my 20s, I was a couch potato. My favorite activity growing up was going to the corner store, getting lots of candy, and then watching TV while I ate it. I struggled with my weight and I hated my body. Year after year of trying for a bit, failing, and then gaining more weight, I was convinced that I was gonna have to live the rest of my life lazy and undisciplined, white-knuckling my way through everything because that's just who I was. If you feel the same and some part of you believes that maybe you're just broken, I want you to really understand something. You are not the problem. The problem is the way we've thought about the problem. I want to share with you the 3 most important things you need to not just know, but really understand before you start or restart a weight loss journey. These mindset shifts are key to putting your time and energy where they actually matter, instead of wasting your effort fighting yourself. Before we get into them, first things first, I do want to be really clear on what I am saying and what I'm not, because this topic is so common yet so misunderstood. And it's something that everyone seems to have an opinion on. At the very end of the day, weight management is calories in versus calories out. What we eat and how we move our body do matter. A change in weight does require a sustained change in your behavior. And to actually change our habits, we do need some amount of willpower and discipline, or in psychology, what is called self-control. Because look, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Where we've gone wrong though, is assuming that once you know that, then you should just be able to do it. Because it's simple. You say yes, you say no. You just have to try harder. I hate this advice because if it was actually that easy, then you wouldn't be watching this. And we'd all be ultra marathoners like David Goggins. After helping real people in their real lives actually change their habits for good, what I've learned is that there is way more to it. Just because something looks simple does not mean it's easy. Being able to do something requires way more than just knowing you should do it. And there's actually also a bunch of stuff we assume we know, but we don't actually understand. Like, we hear the words willpower and discipline all the time, but do you know what they actually mean? Because I didn't. Let's first make sure we're on the same page. In psychology, self-regulation is the overarching big picture. It's our ability to guide our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors towards the life we want and the person we are meant to be. One way we do that is through self-control. Self-control means being able to hold yourself. It's your ability to pause, override impulses when you need to, and choose actions that align with your longer-term goals. It's about prioritizing your future self over your current comfort. One form of self-control is willpower. Willpower, or won't power, is the in-the-moment mental effort required to either say no to a craving or to say yes to doing something hard. And finally, discipline is when you keep your word to yourself by following through over and over again, especially when you don't feel like it. You can see there's a theme here. Self-control is about choosing what actually matters to you over what you feel you want in the moment. So when it comes to changing our actions, willpower or discipline do matter. But what do you do when you feel like you don't have any? Let's get into it. The first thing you need to understand is that hard is information, not identity. When something is hard, it doesn't then mean something is wrong with you. What it means is that something is hard. And I know it sounds obvious when I say it like that, but this is actually where so many of us subconsciously get stuck. There is a big difference between failing to do something and deciding that you are then a failure. One is information. The other is identity. The moment you say, I can't do it because I don't have enough discipline, the struggle stops being something you're experiencing and it becomes who you are. It's subtle, but it is different to say, I didn't do it because I'm still building discipline. Because once you believe you are lazy and undisciplined, every attempt to change is going to become harder. You're no longer just trying to change a habit. You are literally fighting against a deeply held belief system. Most people fall back into their old patterns because they try to change their actions without actually understanding the beliefs underneath. This matters because the way we speak to ourselves is the single most important thing when it comes to lasting change. Our beliefs shape our reality. So the first shift I need you to get is being able to recognize and separate your identity from the struggle itself. Give yourself some space between this is who I am and this is hard to do. Because guess what? Change is hard. As humans, we are literally wired to stay in our comfort zone, in our cozy little cave, because out in nature, that helped us survive. Everyone has moments where they feel lazy and don't feel like doing the thing. It's not just you. But when you turn that struggle into your identity, you are personalizing it into who you are. And it then becomes really hard to keep your head up and keep going. Although it's natural, when we feel disappointed in ourselves and get clouded and weighed down by shame and failure, we will fall back into our old patterns because why bother? It's hopeless. Those negative emotions do tell us something, that this is not the way that we want to live, but they don't help us move forward into what to actually do about it. Shame doesn't give us a strategy the way that curiosity does. Shifting your mindset from judgmental to curious allows you to look at what got in the way without it automatically turning into a story about who you are. And when it comes to change, what's in the way is the way. I'm going to say it again. What's in the way is the way. The thing making change so hard is actually the information that shows you where to look next. The obstacle is the clue. It tells you what questions you need to ask so that you can figure out a better plan. For example, let's say you decided you're going to go to the gym after work and then you don't go. The old thinking is, I guess I didn't do it because I'm too lazy and I just don't have enough discipline. The new way of thinking is, okay, I didn't go today. Why? Was I too tired? Stressed from work? Would it be easier to go before work or not stop at home first? If I keep not going, is there something more doable, like a 10-minute walk around the block instead? It's not about making excuses for why you didn't go. It's acceptance without identity and then asking yourself with curiosity, what can I do to make this happen? This is a completely different way of relating to yourself and your choices. Don't default to the thinking trap of, I just can't do it because that's not who I am. Instead, ask yourself, what is this telling me? What got in the way? How do I make the next step more doable? Because figuring this out does matter to me, and I'm here to live a new story. Become curious about what's in the way. Study the problem like a scientist with an exciting hypothesis who's just trying out different experiments. Not like you're some Supreme Court judge who has sentenced yourself as a moral failure. The moment you move from this proves who I am to this shows me what I need to practice, you are no longer trapped in a limiting belief. You are in the process of growth. This is so important, guys, because the more that we can meet our struggles with curiosity instead of shame, the more that we can adjust, practice, and try again. And over time, with enough reps, you start to prove to yourself that you can do hard things. Because the ability to do hard things is not something that you either have or you don't have. Self-control is not a fixed personality trait. It's something we build. It's like a muscle or a capacity that can be trained and strengthened over time. Take it from me. I used to think people who were disciplined were just built different. They were born with something that I just didn't have. I was here and they were over there in this perfect structured life. For example, I actually had a roommate in undergrad who was literally that girl. She would get up every day before class, go for her morning run, make herself breakfast, and even did her dishes before I got out of bed. Her groceries were always stocked in the fridge, all organized and cute, and meanwhile, I was having cereal for dinner. Again, at the time, I remember thinking, wow, it must be nice to be like her. It sucks that I'm just not like that. But looking back, there was so much more to the story. Her father was a physiotherapist, her mom a dietitian, and she ran track in high school. Her family made home-cooked, plant-based meals and taught her to do the same. Many of the traits and behaviors I admired in her had been modeled, practiced, and reinforced over years. She wasn't magically different. She had simply spent more time and had more reps in developing the skills and routines that I had barely begun to learn. I only saw the surface, the end product of years of habit building. And that's actually one of the coolest things about being human, how our brains are literally shaped over time by our actions. This is called neuroplasticity, or our brain's ability to adapt and reorganize. Neurons that fire together wire together, which means that when we learn something new and practice it, the brain actually forms and strengthens new connections. The different systems of our brain, our self-control, our positive or negative thinking, our identity and beliefs, our dopamine seeking, literally everything going on in here. These pathways, they're also like muscles. What you do more of grows stronger. Think of it like walking through the forest. The first time ever, it'll be hard because there's all these twigs and leaves and uneven ground that you have to try not to trip over. You will have to think about where you're going. But the more that you walk the same path, the more it starts to form. You begin to recognize where to go and what landmarks to watch out for. If you keep walking, it gets to the point where you can almost see it carved out in front of you, as if it was always there. And again, you do have to walk the path every time, but it does get easier the more that you do it, because neurons that fire together wire together. And that's kind of what my roommate's life was like. She still had to get up on a cold day and go outside for the run. She still had to cook. Every day, she had to make the choices that supported her identity as a healthy person. But by the time we crossed paths, she was already going down a well-trodden trail, while mine was like a wild jungle still waiting to be explored. And it's not that she didn't struggle with walking the path. The more I got to know her, the more that I learned that she would get tired, she would get stressed, she did have cravings for chocolate. She actually was human. But back to our first point. When she didn't feel like doing the hard thing, she saw that limbic or emotional resistance as it was a normal part of the process, not proof that something was wrong with her. Her relationship to self-control or discipline was different, and she had a whole toolbox of skills and practices that helped keep her on track and got her back on it. This is what I wish I could have told myself back then, and what I really want you to understand. She didn't start being disciplined, she built it. Already being disciplined is not a prerequisite to getting started. You don't have to be good at it at first, because the skill of discipline is what develops as you practice. If you haven't spent enough time and effort into putting in the reps, it should be hard to start and maintain. So as you begin walking, don't make the path harder than it needs to be. Make it doable. Be real with yourself about where you're starting, and be kind about what's actually realistic in your busy everyday life. Because the real way we build self-control is by showing up over and over again for something that sucks, but just a little bit, just a micro suck. It doesn't work by punishing yourself and suffering down the steepest path only a few times. For our brain to actually change, what we want is just a small amount of discomfort on purpose. Enough of it to be a challenge, but not too much where it's not possible to repeat. As we build more strength and more confidence that we can do little hard things, we cultivate more discipline and more capacity to then take on our next challenge. This brings us to our third shift. Because even after we've built more capacity, we still have to understand the conditions that capacity is working inside. What I mean by that is our behavior is influenced by so much more than just our willpower. Take going to the gym, for example. It's simple to say, but it's not one simple action. It's actually a whole learned behavioral routine. We have to make time to do it. We have to get dressed. We have to get outside our house. We have to know what we do when we get there. And we might even have to tolerate feeling awkward and uncomfortable. We do need to do it for it to happen, but our self-control or our discipline have to work inside a real life with a real body and a real mind. The way I like to think of this is like trying to close a door against a strong gust of wind. You do have to use your effort or your willpower to close the door, but how strong you are isn't the only part of the equation. How fast that wind is going, how heavy the door is, how you're feeling that day, all matter. The wind itself can also change day to day. Sometimes it might be going 10 kilometers per hour and other times 70. If you're sleep deprived and stressed, it's going to be harder. If you're in a calorie deficit and your biological survival mechanisms are kicking in, telling you to eat more food, then that wind is going to be stronger. It's not that willpower doesn't matter. It's that we can use our willpower more effectively when we can understand what it's working against. For example, I have a patient who is one of the kindest people to everyone around her, but not to herself. When we first met, she had gotten into the habit of going to the convenience store after work and getting a family-sized bag of chips, a bag of candy, a couple chocolate bars, and then going home and binging it all before she did anything else. She said it felt automatic, like once she was on her way home, it was inevitable. She had no control over it because she felt she was too weak and just didn't have enough willpower. Afterward, she would then shame and blame herself and go to bed feeling like a failure, only to repeat it again the next day. At first, we tried to get her to go in and just get a smaller size of things or choose a healthier option, but she kept defaulting back to her old habit. So instead of having her focus on trying to say no in her hardest moment, we decided to expand our understanding of what else was going on, what was building that wind throughout the day, because the decision didn't just start at the convenience store. That's just where it became visible. This reward for her came after a long, demanding day at a high-stress job. She would either skip lunch or eat something quick and processed at her desk, and her afternoon snack was cup after cup of coffee with cream and sugar. She was also chronically sleep deprived because she would go to bed feeling terrible and her mind would be active all night long. This wasn't just about her saying no at the convenience store. It was about understanding the whole system around that choice. I can't wait to share with you more specific strategies in future videos because I promise you, there are ways, mental and physical, to building up your toolbox in order to reduce friction and make it easier to change your habits. But for the sake of time and attention span, the key point today is this. If you only look at the final moment, the choice point, you'll think that the problem is your lack of willpower. So then no wonder the only solution you can imagine is to try harder. But when we zoom out, we can then see all of the factors that influence that choice. And from that perspective, we can start changing things in a way that actually works. When it comes to weight loss, I see this as one of the most misunderstood and oversimplified ideas. Not that willpower doesn't matter, but that it's only about willpower. And you either have it or you don't. When we misunderstand the problem, we are going to keep reaching for the wrong solution. So yes, weight loss does require behavior change. Calories in versus calories out does matter, and that does require willpower. But changing your actions isn't just about your effort. And if you keep defining yourself by what you don't have, then you'll never get the chance to actually build up your capacity. Step back, detach your self-worth from this, and understand the problem better so that you can ask better questions and create a better plan. Let's optimize our journey with strategies that actually work with our wiring instead of against it. I have so much more to share with you guys. This is really just the beginning. There is so much that I don't know, I was never taught, and I'm assuming you weren't either. Not just the perspective shifts that can actually help us understand ourselves better, but also the practical steps for taking action and changing your story. I've witnessed these insights help so many of my patients move forward and love their life again. And I know it's possible for you too. Next time, we'll break down the specific evidence-based factors that influence our weight and what to do about it so that you can stop wasting your time and start directing your effort to where it actually matters. We're gonna do this together step by step. Till then, thank you for spending time with me. I'm sending you so much love. And remember, be curious, not critical.